Hi everyone, good morning. Maxine here with Tink and I Treasures. I have a project for us today. It's it's for storage, I guess. You could use it for a lot of things. It's using the hinged system on the spine. And this is the first one I made. And I use it for ephemera, for journaling cards. I even have it labeled here, journaling cards. So these are finished journaling cards that are just ready to go to put into a journal. And they're a lot of fun to make. I end up with quite a bit of ephemera because I get so involved in making it. But yeah, so these are all ready to go. And it's a nice compact way to store a lot of things. And it doesn't take a lot to make it. Here's another one I did. This one's a little bit more fancy. But again, it's using up paper. If you need scrapbooking paper, you need the heavier, preferably the double-sided kind of scrapbook pads. You need the heavier, almost cardstock type paper for this. But if you have a paper pad and you just have a few leftover sheets, maybe from a project, like this one has a lot of graphic 45 paper in it that I had left over from different projects, and I thought, what can I do with that? I need to use it. I need to get it out of my stash for one thing. And so yeah, this is a great way to use up those few extra pages that you have, or maybe you bought a paper pad 12 by 12 that you're not real, excited about, or it wasn't exactly what you thought it was, or something like that. So yeah, this is a great way to use those up. This one, I have some side pockets. I have double pockets. This one is a double pocket. I used up paper making the hinges as well. This is an extra deep pocket, and I'll show you how to do those. This one here is another double. This black paper, I was really happy to find a use for it because it's not something I would typically use. Here's another side pocket or side tuck. This is a double. So yeah, isn't this great? This is just a fun way, and you could, keep all kinds of stuff in here, really. You could use it for receipts, for notes, for cards, letters. You could do 12 pages and have one for each month. You could store photos in here. All kinds of stuff, really. Here's again another one I used, using up the last of a paper pad that I had. And I learned some do's and don'ts when doing these, so I will pass that on to you so you make yours perfect from right out of the box. This one is a little bit shorter than the other ones I made. It's also a lot thicker. I really got involved in this one. Using up another paper pad that I had, that I just, some of the sheets, you know, that I just didn't know what I was going to do with them. And yeah, so let's get going. So I have a paper pad here, and see, it's double-sided, and I've used a lot out of this pad. Some of the other things I just can't seem to fit in my journals. So yeah, let's get going with this. I hope everyone is well. I need to have some more coffee. Cut this off. Okay, now the first thing we want to do, this is going to be my cover. So fold it in half. Now you can make it any size you want. You could even use an 8x8 paper pad or a 6x6 paper pad. You know, it'd just be a lot smaller, but you know, you could totally make this any size you want to. If you have some paper pads that have 8x8 and you're not sure what to do with, this is a perfect project for it. So here's some other paper I had. This is just plain cardstock, and I don't really like it in my journals because when you fold or when you score this paper, it has a tendency to crack. So I don't like using it. But again, this will be great paper for this project. It's nice and heavy. Nice and heavy cardstock. I don't know what the weight is, but you know, it feels like double-sided scrapbook paper like this. It feels like that. All right, so, and you can make this, you know, any size you want to. You want to have odd number. Whatever size you do, just make sure it's an odd number. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's good. As you can see, this one is quite small. Has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. And this one I made quite big. Like I said, I just really got going and really didn't pay attention to how big it was getting, but I will have a use for it. No problem there. Okay, so once you get these folded in half, you want to decide how tall you want. How tall you want your ephemera keeper to be. So, you know, if anybody knows of a cutter like this that has a contrast, a good contrast, see, this is my problem. So look at that. The numbers for the measuring, the numbers, all the little, 5/8 and 1/4 and all that, are all the same color as the base. Now, is that stupid or what? You need a high contrast. I mean, why couldn't they have made these black or something? I mean, I have taken my distress ink and run it along here trying to give some contrast so I can see the numbers a little better, and that helps, but I don't know why they don't think about, things like that. I saw a new one, Caterpillar has this new cutter, and it is awesome. It has a light that comes on that actually marks where it's going to cut. I think it's awesome. But again, the arm that comes out on the more compact one, it's shaped like this and it has the arm to come out. The arm and the numbers are all the same color, and I'm just like, really? Okay, so let's make this one 8.5. These tools that they make for paper crafting, I wish they had people on their design teams that actually did this, I think that would help them get much better products if they had people on their design teams that actually do this kind of art. Especially, I think a lot of us that do this are a bit older, and enough said, right? Okay, so there we go. Now what we want to do is glue these together. I just use a glue stick for this, but you could use any kind of glue you have, as long as it's not too watery of a glue or too liquidy, wet, because you don't want your papers curdling or anything like that. So I don't know that I would use like Elmer's glue or something like that. I don't think that would be a good idea. But glue stick works well. I like these kind that, put down a color so you can see where you've been. It's really helpful. You don't have to use a whole lot. I make sure I get the edges pretty well. A few times I've gone back after one's been completed and I've noticed that pages are separating. I'll go back and kind of touch up some of the corners, I hope everyone is okay. We've had a lot of problems with forest fires where I am. The fires got relatively close to where I am. It was pretty unsettling for a few days. The skies were just red. It made you feel like the fire was just, not very far away. The skies were just red. and smoke. Oh my God. We have stayed in. Of course, you know, we have pretty much been staying in since March. So, you know, staying in is not a problem, you know. But fire, God, there's a lot of people that have lost their homes and everything they own. I can't imagine going through that, especially right now with the COVID and everything else. People's lives are in such a upheaval, turmoil, and then you've got to get out because a fire is coming, and what do you take? I mean, you know, my cat, our medicines, you know, that's probably what I'd leave the house with, the cat and our prescriptions. You know, I don't know. Okay, so we've glued all these pages down, and now we want to hinge them. And I have some strips here that I've already cut out of some paper. This is a good way to use up scraps. Like right here, this would be perfect for those hinges. And again, you know, this is something you can decide whatever size you want your hinges to be, whatever width. These are 1 inch size. You know, you can make them 1.5 inch, you can make them 2 inch, you know, whatever you want to do. Look at that. Just took care of that right away. And I pulled that out of my scrap bucket here. Here's another one. Look at that. Perfectly good. Another thing, I have problems with the cutters, and I don't know, maybe it's me, but sometimes I have a really hard time with them cutting straight. It seems like they move. That one seems to be okay. That's how you can tell. You cut a strip or whatever, and you bring the ends up together and see if they match up. That's how you tell if you're cutting straight or not. But yeah, I like I said, I don't know if it's the cutter or me. I feel it's probably me. Okay, and the length of these, it depends on how thick this is going to be. I mean, if you were making this, your strips wouldn't have to be too long. If you were making this, you know, actually, no, I take that back, because the strips are still going over the same number of pages. No matter how big your book ends up being, they're going over the same amount of pages. So, that's 1.5. I'm going to do that 1.5. I think those are probably too long. It depends, you know, on the final look that you want as well. You know, do you want hinges to be like maybe a focal point? Maybe you're using some really pretty paper that was scrapped that you just love, and you want those hinges to be a focal point. You could have the hinge going, you know, you could have the hinge going all the way across if you wanted. Okay, so now what we do is we make sure we have the folded edge to the outside. and the edge where the papers came together to the inside. Okay, so I'm going to turn all those over so they're going the right way, and we want to separate the pile. The last one, the odd one, put to the side. Okay, on these you're going to add the hinges, and one pile is going to be a 2 hinge and one pile is going to be a 3 hinge. Let's see, make sure I got mine going the right way. Yeah. Okay, so I like to start with the 3 hinge, and again, so you want to bend it in half, but don't crease it down hardly. Just get it bent in half, and then put glue on the one half of your fold, and just eyeball where you want this to go. And this is going to be the 3 hinge. Oops. Eyeball that in the middle. Doesn't have to be exact unless you want it to. And you can certainly get out the measure, and you know, make sure that it's perfect. I suppose it depends if you're making this for somebody else or to sell. You know, you might want to be more precise on some of this stuff and take better care of what papers you're using, and you know. Okay, so we got the one done. So now we use it as a guide to do all the others. So we line these papers up so they're perfect, and then we just use the first one to guide where we put the next. So whatever you do on the first page, that's where you're going to place all the others. And you know, like I said, there's, you know, except for the initial one, if you wanted to measure that and make sure it was perfect. Other than that, there's no measuring involved. You just use the first one as kind of like a template or a guide to place all your others. Oops. It's a problem with glue stick. It kind of slides around at first, although, you know, it's actually a problem and a blessing because it gives you extra time to make sure you got them in the right place too, instead of just grabbing right away like some other glues would, you know, grab right away, and you don't get that opportunity to do some last minute adjustments. Okay, so this is our 3-tab pile. This is our 2-tab pile. Okay, so what we want to do is get one from the 3s and put it down, and you're going to use that as a template as well. Make sure your papers line up. Okay. And you want to get in between those two. So again, I'm just eyeballing it. You could get pretty fancy with your papers and your hinges and the sides of your hinges. I mean, you know, you could really do a lot with the design element. Oops. Well, a lot of wiggle room there. Make sure they're not glued to each other. Okay, once you've gotten that, then you can move on. Get these lined up and then use the two as a template for placement. Ugh. You know what? I was also thinking on these hinges, you could actually do a lot of decorative things. Just now occurred to me. You know, it's like, okay, so here's your hinge, and if you have a corner rounder, look at that. Isn't that fun? You could do that, you know, make a design, or here's just a corner rounder. Look at that. That's pretty, that's cool, huh? You know what else you could do? If you have one of these kind, let's see what happens there. Look at that. See? Well, there's good for you. Look at that. So yeah, that would be fun, huh? Well, you could really have these things dolled up. Just put some kind of fancy edging on your hinges. You could actually have hinges as a focal point. Some of these scissors, you could cut the end. Let's see there. And make a fancy end with scissors. There's all kinds of stuff you could do with these. Okay, so now we got all ours done that are two hinge. So we want to put it together. So this, like I said, this is going to be the cover. So we put this down, okay? And we want to take a 3 hinge and put that down. Get them lined up really well, okay? I get some paper up here. Okay, so you want to glue the first one. So pick this up. So it's the 2 that's down first. So you want to glue only the ones that are below, one down. So not those, but these, okay? And you want to pull kind of tight when you're taking it around the page, pull it tight. Otherwise, you're going to have wobbly hinges when you're finished. If that makes sense. So when you pull, of course you don't want to pull too much because you know it is paper, but just very firmly fold it over that page so it's a nice tight hinge rather than loose. Okay, so now we have 3, so we want to put down our 2. Again, make sure they're all lined up well. And now we want to glue the 3. So you just switch, you know, 2, 3, 2, 3, or 3, 2, whichever one you started with. And again, you want to pull that over and make sure it's really tight close fold there. Okay, and you take your 3 and put that down. And now we want to glue the 2. Pull that tight. Oops. Okay, now we're all done with our piles, right? So we take the last one that we set aside. Make sure it's going the right way. The last one that we set aside doesn't have any tabs on it. We put it down. And that's how we finish it off. So this is a very easy project. It doesn't take a lot of materials. In fact, if you bought a paper pad, you could get quite a few of these depending on the size of the pad. Just make sure it's the double-sided kind, because the single-sided kind is just too flimsy. The paper is just too flimsy. You definitely want double-sided or cardstock for this, because single-sided is just too flimsy. It won't hold the weight. Okay, so that. So now, see how that works? And that's all put together. So if you don't get this really tight, you're going to have, you know, flimsy, loose hinges. But see how nice and tight these are. So they're not flimsy at all. They're very, very sturdy, very sturdy. It makes a very sturdy book. You could also use, for the hinges, you could also use material if you wanted to. Little pieces of material would be nice too. So there's that. Now it's just a matter of putting in your pockets, whatever you want to do. And remember when we cut this down, look at this. We have pockets. We've got our pockets already. So, and they are pretty much the right size. You have to trim a little bit. But, yeah, pretty much the right size. measure that like that, and that's going to hang over just a tad. And where is it? Oh, here it is. I like to get out my punch and put just a little notch in there. And at this point in time, if you want, you can ink up your edges. Okay, so yeah, and do a dry fit here, and that's perfect. Now for these, and I'm not going to use the glue stick, because when you're doing pockets or anything like that, you want to make sure that you're using kind of a liquid glue. You wouldn't want to use like double stick tape or anything like that. You want to use a liquid glue, so when it dries, it's not going to be sticky. Double stick tape, if you've got any bit of that tape poking out, it's going to stick to everything you put in it. That's just a mess. So this stuff, once it's dry, it's not going to stick to anything that you put in the pocket. Okay, and this is actually a good way to use other scraps as well. I mean, you have your pile that you cut when you were deciding on your size, which gives you a natural pocket, but you could also go into your stash and use up scraps from there too. All right, so I will show, so this was just a normal pocket that is just stuck down, and it holds, you know, it holds a good amount, but not a lot. So I want to show you how to make a pocket that has more room in it. Okay, so this we're going to take the end and we're going to fold it down. Again, you could use your scoreboard if you wanted to. You could measure if you wanted to. And I just cut the end down. So that is like that. And we want to see where we want to put it. And then from here, we can see where we want that one to be. I just match them up on the ends, and so I got it straight across that. And then cut it down and miter the end a little bit. That's just me. I just like that better. So when you put this down and you glue it down, this here is giving you extra room in your pocket. Let's see, do that, and maybe do a little bit of inking. You could ink these things up. You could stamp. You could use a stamp on them. You could actually decorate. So if you have one here that's plain, you could use some pattern paper and put it down in front of here like this and have a double pocket. So you want to glue these down and the bottom. Now, if you want a lot of extra room, you could actually fold in the bottom just like we did on the sides here, and that would give you even a larger pocket for things. I want to get that placed where we want that to be. Sure it's stuck down. Now make sure you do your hinges first and then you do your pockets. One of them I got so involved that I messed up, and I put my pockets on first and then I put my hinges, and of course that was just a hot mess. I worked it out, but I think it was this one actually that I did it on, which is, you know, like the third or fourth one I made. So I couldn't believe I did that. Oh, here's one. So I put on the pockets first, right? And then I'm putting on the hinges, and I'm realizing the hinge is going to go over this pocket and close this pocket up, right? So what I had to do was cut the hinge and to do that, and I'm just like, well, why did I do that? You know, I hadn't been doing it, and you know, like I said, the third or fourth one I made, I end up doing that. So anyway, see this pocket, I don't know if you can see that well, but this pocket comes out more than this pocket would, and so it's going to hold a lot more stuff by putting those side flaps on. So there, and you just keep going. You're doing that. You could have a smaller piece and have a second one up here for smaller things, or you could put one along the side and have a side tuck. It just all depends on, you know, what your idea is for what you're going to use it for, what you're going to put in here. You know, if you have an idea of what you're going to do ahead of time, then you know how to design it from the beginning. But yeah, that's it. And, you know, it can hold all kinds of things. You could also make these pockets out of, some people use vellum, and I have done that in the past, but I find that vellum tears, and maybe it's me. Maybe I put too much in the pocket. Maybe my fingers are too big, and when I'm trying to get in there to get something, I don't know, I end up ripping the paper. So what I have found that works out really well, I know I have some, but where are they? That's the thing. Right here. Paper protectors from the office supply store. Not only are they really cheap, but they won't tear. So you can cut this to size. You could actually leave it doubled if you wanted to, or you can make a pocket. You could have it doubled like it is now for paper. You can cut it to size, glue the bottom one down, and have the top one for a second pocket, maybe, or, you know, I mean, anyway, office supply store. You know what? A lot of the things we use that are so expensive, when you're getting them from arts and crafts or hobbies, they cost so much. But if you go to the office supply store, if you go to Staples or or Office Depot or something like that, you can find things like paper protectors. They work great for pockets. They don't tear like vellum does, and they're a whole lot cheaper than vellum. So yeah, check out your your local office supply store. You'll be surprised how much things you can find for a whole lot less for what we're doing here. Anyway, I'm pretty sure office supply stores have cardstock. You know, it wouldn't be pretty, pattern paper, but, you could get plain white or, whatever color you want. And so that would work out just as well. So anyway, from here, you could decorate it with, you could decorate the front all up however you want it. You could put a journal label on it. You could put down some ephemera. Well, this is something I've gotten recently. Let's see, where's 12? There we go. So yeah, you could put down some ephemera and, decorate it all up, and put some kind of label down here as to what's inside maybe. So anyway, I hope you liked this little project. I hope it gives you a lot of good ideas. I hope it helps you to use some of your scraps or some of your paper pads that you don't want to hoard, but you're not sure what to do with either. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.